What's up? Welcome to our market recap. Today is August 24th, 2025. So we had a pretty active day last session of the week on Friday of last week. A few different trades, 3 in all. You had, let's go back in time here a little bit. You had this pound Aussie that I talked about in the watch list. It's the main pair looking for it. 2-to-1 trade. It didn't pull back to the original kind of fib levels. It continued kind of pushing a little bit more throughout the session, but eventually did give a pullback. Granted, it already bounced off of S1 before the pullback occurred, and typically that would put a trade into a no trade situation for me. But given the fact that the 1 hour 200, the 4 hour 50 are still a ways away and hadn't been hit. So essentially the price broke below the 1 hour 50 and it was sitting in that middle range between the 1 hour 50 and 4 hour 50 and then started to pull back. It still fits within like a typical IBO strategy. So I think you can ignore the S1 touch here, and then gave a pretty decent micro time frame entry on the 30-second as well as like the 2-minute time frame. You had this kind of nice upward triangle symbol, and then a break of it entered off of a break of this triangle pattern and position size just for 2-to-1. So a trade kind of moved sideways. No real management needed to be done until roughly the break of that EMA, clip the highs, take a little bit of risk off. And then when the Powell started speaking during the Jackson Hole summit, trade really just ran to a target. So still really nice setup. It's good. The other trade was this Aussie yen. Wave playing pretty much like a wave 2 in a sense, but utilizing like a WTF strategy. So price kind of pushing, hits the kind of 4 hour 50, 1 hour 200, R1 area, gives a reversal on a micro time frame. A few different lines kind of drawn in here on a 30-second is where this entry occurred. I think you could draw this trend line or you could draw that trend line. Either one kind of fits, right? So a break of that taken pretty 2-to-1 position to right before the 1 hour 50 and right before 0.382 fib. And then exited on a 5-second EMA break. If we switch this, you can see it to 5 seconds. Exited on a 5-second EMA break when price kind of broke trend here. So there's the potential of holding this trade if you really wanted to. But the way I look at these at this point is price kind of accelerated down pretty hard. It nearly touched the target. It's a counter trend play. So at this point, I'm going to be as aggressive as possible and try and collect whatever profit is there. And so sometimes I'll drop all the way down to a 5-second and look for a trend change and exit on that trend change. So it's a 1.5 hour trade is ultimately what it ended up being. So solid trade. Nice. And then Aussie dollar here, the ABO we were talking about on the watch list, right? It gave an entry in like a 30-second, 2-minute kind of time frame. You had price essentially come back and retest this bottom multiple times. You had this kind of break of a trend right here, valid entry. Price is kind of then chopped sideways a little bit. Sort of breaking out of this level just a tiny bit, but then coming right back down and testing a low again. technically there's another entry somewhere in here. And then again, when Jerome started speaking during Jackson Hole, the price just kind of shot through the roof. So, and straight to target for a 3-1. So a number of different options Friday. I'm assuming there's going to be a number of dollar pairs on watch tonight, possibly. A lot of large dollar movements, a lot of large movements just in general due to some of the things that were said in that meeting, sounding like probably cutting interest rates, turning on back on a money printer, which is going to kind of shake up the currency world, which is good. Volatility means more options to trade. So, and then some of the other stuff in here pretty much played out. Euro Aussie, not too much. Aussie PLN. Watch this from a perspective of spreads. And I don't think this is a pair I'm going to be able to trade either because the spread never really kind of calmed down on it. But never really gave an entry, but did push to the target. Euro Huff was also a primary. It never pulled back fully, but then did get the follow through to target and then collapsed afterwards. Euro CAD, interestingly enough, I was watching this and I did not like this trend line, right? But this trade did play out. I mean, you had a break, you had a retest, it followed through down to the 1 hour 50. So a 2-to-1 position would have fit inside of here, would have hit that 2-to-1, I mean, in an hour or so. So pretty quickly. And then pretty much tapped your 2-to-1 and then reversed from there. But still a potential trade. Euro NOK, also a potential trade. I don't think it pulled back fully. Nah, it didn't. Dollar Huff didn't pull back. Kiwi dollar also broke out. Looking at this, so this might have potential to be an IBO today. We'll see how these kind of large movements work. I mean, some of them might need some pretty drastic pullbacks. I just don't know if we'll get them. Dollar PLN didn't pull back before. I mean, it pulled back, but just not enough before it pushed to intended target. This could be an interesting trade tonight. Yeah. Well, cool. I'm going to go make my watch list for the upcoming session, and I'll catch you guys here in a minute. All right. And we're back. So I have a lot of dollar pairs on watch for tonight's session. That's pretty much all I have. I have 3 primaries. We'll get into why. I have pound dollar as a primary, Kiwi dollar as a primary, and dollar CAD as a primary. So start with pound dollar here. Obviously, really good, clean break of a downwards trend here. So a clear higher high coming back for a higher low for the confirmation of a trend change, and then trading wave 3. So it's a wave 3 CBO, essentially. I think it's the nicest of the dollar pairs from a price action perspective. Your daily kind of has this inverse head and shoulders. It's bouncing off the daily EMA, real good bullish engulfing candle. You have room to move to the most recent highs. It's essentially our target. And there's not really anything in the way between the entry point and the target. And there's a lot of stuff at the entry point, as support. So we have the pivot, 0.382 fib, the other fib levels. We have both the EMAs. A lot, 4 hour looks good. 1 hour looks good. 10-minute time frame looks good. 10-minute will be like an ACB if it pulls back, and CBO, but also still pretty much a CBO on your 4 hour as well. So all your time frames essentially align for a bullish move for the day. So pound dollar is my favorite of all of these dollar pairs. Euro dollar is very similar to pound dollar. And I I think either one of these trades would probably be fine to take. But I labeled pound dollar as the primary because I like the daily a little bit better, even though the daily on euro dollar is pretty similar. And the levels for the EMAs and whatnot line up a little bit better on pound dollar than they do here on euro dollar. So essentially a very similar trade with euro dollar, but price action just aligns a little bit better here with pound dollar, hence why it's flag primary. But I think both are very valid trades. It's kind of the theme between these primaries and secondaries. The other primaries is Kiwi dollar. So this is like playing a wave 3 IBO. So a good strong initial break, coming back for a retest of pivot 0.382 and then 1 hour 50, and then playing a 2-to-1 move pretty much to R1. The downside to this trade is you do have to trade through the 4 hour 50 to hit the target, but you can still capture 1.5 R or so if it stalls at the 1 hour 50. So there's still room to move for a trade. There's at least you can make 1 R, which is the bare minimum I try and make per trade. But there's room to move on the daily time frame until you get to any EMAs or anything. So that's good. 4 hours, what we already talked about with that 4 hour 50. But the 1 hour looks good. 10-minute time frame looks good. I think it's a valid trade. When you look at Aussie dollar, though, Aussie dollar is a CBO, but very similar price action, right? Like it kind of had the same slowdown on Aussie dollar that you did on Kiwi dollar. So pretty similar there. Same kind of break that all the dollar pairs are having. You're still running into an EMA on your 4 hour, which is your daily 50 and your 4 hour 200 that you would have to trade through to get to your target. Granted, those EMAs sit a little bit lower, so instead of getting like 1.5 R to that EMA, you're getting about 1. So, and then on your daily time frame, very similar price action, but you've run right into the daily 50. So Kiwi dollar, you have room to move to those, and Aussie dollar, you don't. It's essentially why I flagged Kiwi dollar as a primary over Aussie dollar. But again, I think they're both very valid trades. And then dollar CAD is another primary. So daily time frame wise, great kind of bearish engulfing candle off the daily 200. You have this resistance level in here as well from the previous high. It's broken back down below. I wish the EMAs aligned a little bit better. I don't love this 4 hour 50. But I do like the overall breakdown, come back for a retest. It's not the cleanest when it comes to some of how these EMAs align, but the 1 hour will be okay at time of entry. The 10-minute time frame will look good at the time of entry. It's just the 4 hour that's going to be a little questionable possibly, but the daily time frame looks good. So I still think it has everything it's needed to take a trade. And then another secondary I had here was dollar Singapore. It's interesting. I mean, is kind of at the tail end of a run here, but similar to all the dollar pairs, you have a pretty bearish candle. A good breakdown, coming back for a pullback, play wave 3. So all of these dollar pairs are about the same. It's just like what has the cleanest price action of all of them, but there's probably going to be trades in all of these, right? On pound dollar, I think there's a potential for 2 trades on this. So there's this wave 3 CBO, which is the primary trade I'm looking for. But there's also a potential to trade if price doesn't pull back and it just continues pushing from here. So we don't get a pullback, it just pushes to there. Instead, then I think you'll be able to play a wave 2 pullback from this level, back down to these previous highs or so here. And a good kind of 4 hour daily time frame resistance level here, right? And all price has to pull back at some point. So I'll be interested to see how price reacts to this level if we don't get a pullback to enter at the pivot and fib levels. So two possible trades for that and that trade. Kiwi dollar, I think you could argue the same. It doesn't line up that well. I wouldn't be super comfortable taking a wave 2 pullback, but it's potentially there. Dollar CAD, similar potential, but price would have to push pretty far, and the EMAs and the S1 don't really align all that well. So I wouldn't be too comfortable taking a wave 2 with dollar CAD. I really look for there to be like EMAs or a nice kind of resistance or support level and to line up with S1, R1, something like that. What we have here on pound dollar, if I'm going to take a trade like that. Yeah, and then I have dollar Mexican and dollar Huff flagged. These aren't really flagged for pullback plays, but they may have them. I'm more so interested like on this dollar Mexican, how price reacts to this level down here. You know, you've tapped it multiple times now as support, and it's kind of bounced off that level each time, and it's has some pretty good deceleration here on your daily time frame. So I'm just curious to see how price reacts to this level. I'm going to go ahead and set an alert here. This could potentially, if price just continues to fall, also be a play back up. So see how that reacts. And dollar Huff, this is probably going to be a no trade, but again, I'm curious to see how it reacts. I mean, we've talked about this pair for feels like 2 weeks now. You've got these multiple touches here on your daily time frame, so a pretty solid support level on the daily time frame, and then it broke out and then smashed back down with all of the Jerome stuff come Friday. So it will be interesting to see how markets today start to react to some of the information that came out Friday. You know, it's all still speculation into some of the things that he said, but it was angled towards cutting rates in September. It was angled towards turning back on a money printer again, which all DFAT values the dollar. So should be bearish dollar from like a fundamental standpoint for a little while. I mean, granted, you're still going to have trades in there. So it'd be interesting. See what happens. Then I also had dollar Swiss, dollar yen, dollar PLN originally flagged, but as I've kind of gone through them, like I don't like this horizontal level with dollar yen. I don't really want to trade through it. I think this trade could have potential, but the daily is sitting at the 50. You have this support level. There's just better options out there. Dollar PLN, very similar, right? You have this level that's been touched multiple different times on your 4 hour, 1 hour. So you could potentially play a bounce, but I'd prefer that level to line up with S1, R1, you know? It's interesting. It has potential, but again, there's just better setups in these kind of 6 that I have flagged up here. And the other thing I found was this Kiwi CAD, an IBO, right? So kind of just a straight break, consolidation of price, a break above the 1 hour 50, coming back for a pullback of this level on the 10-minute time frame. You can see it has a decent kind of support level here. What was resistance, now support, but a good break, come back for a pullback, and then play that to 4 hour 50. So has decent support at the entry area, has a clear room to run to the target area. So yeah, potential trade. But the main 3 I'm looking for will be this pound dollar, Kiwi dollar, and dollar CAD. But preferably this pound dollar. And then I have some other stuff on development watch. Still kind of watching this pound Kiwi, see what happens here at these kind of daily all-time highs. Same thing with Euro Kiwi. And then CAD Swiss, daily time frame wise, it's sitting at this kind of multiple touch level. So waiting to see how this develops. I'd prefer this to kind of like break up at this point and then play that continuation. So waiting to see what happens. Kiwi Swiss, Same thing as these other two Kiwis, kind of at all-time highs / lows on all three of these pairs. Just waiting to see what they do. CAD Swiss, similar. Oh, we just talked about CAD Swiss. Euro CAD, same kind of thing. Good daily kind of run. Also run on your 4-hour. So waiting to see potential for a breakdown at some point into play and move something like that when it breaks. And then pound CAD, similar to Euro CAD. We've been watching this level for like 2 weeks or so now. And it hasn't really quite broken down. Like we've gotten some potential IBOs a couple of times. It broke back up here. More so not, it's kind of just moving sideways, consolidating in this range. So curious to see how price responds, but I'm still looking for a price to break down and then to take a continuation. Either way, that's my watch list for the upcoming session, and I will catch you guys tomorrow. See ya.